Okay.
It's called How to Digest Old Ideas. So this one actually rhymes, so you might appreciate it even more since you like the rhyming stuff.
True.
Yeah. When I don't digest old ideas, it becomes too much poop cooped up in a small space for my body to scoop up later. It leaves no room for new ideas to enter from the open sky and endless space above my head, nor for the possibilities of inspiration in my heart chakra. When my gut is too busy digesting the overeating of old ideas, it has no room for my inner womb to grow a new baby of ideas, nor a new tree of blossoms from idea seeds. The true nature of my mind is absolutely beautiful, spacious, and always luminous, full of boundless, clear light. It's only the covering of the conditioning of stale, bloated ideas that need a good fart to cleanse it out, instead of all that wind stuck in the belly, hurting it and all systems within me with the constipation of ideas. That's when it's time for a good poop of rotten ideas and programming that isn't even mine, really, but other people's that I haven't fully digested to make it truly mine.
Okay. I would say go back to the area where you talk about being congested and pooping out your ideas. Read that again.
Oh yeah, where is that? Well, I have two sections on that. So one is when my gut is too busy digesting the overeating of old ideas, it has no room for my inner womb to grow a new baby of ideas, nor a new tree of blossoms from idea seeds. And then I also say it's only the conditioning of stale, bloated ideas that need a good fart to cleanse it out, instead of all that wind stuck in the belly, hurting it and all systems within me with the constipation of ideas.
I think that's probably like my favorite part of the story of the poem. I was about to say story.
Yeah.
That's all you see telling stories. But that I would say that's my favorite part because
Mhm.
it goes it directs me to something that I'm dealing with right now, which is
Mm.
like trying to like just get whatever does come to mind out of me and allow those bad poems to happen so that I can like
Exactly. Yeah.
and just like still stay active so that I can like be prepared for the fresh and useful ideas to come to me, you know what I mean? Because I
Mhm.
haven't been I've been struggling to write, but I'm still like trying to like allow myself to be available for inspiration to find me. And
Mhm.
so what I try to exercise and what I also tell other people, I told Emma, and she's found use for it, was to like just write about anything and like and don't judge it. Don't like write how don't like sit down and actually try to write something that's on your mind that's like you intend to write. Don't like write the way you normally write and like try to like actually do your best. Just write anything, allow whatever that actually does find you to come out and don't judge it. Just allow it to exist, allow it to be. That way you can that creativity still is still like flowing. And so
Mm-hmm.
that's sort of like what I'm trying to do myself. And so that's why I like that part because that's something that
Mm-hmm.
I'm dealing with right now, and with trying to like trying to re not rebuild, but like restore creativity by allowing
Mm-hmm.
some crappy stuff to happen or whatever I
Mm-hmm.
believe to be crappy. See, I'm judging. I'm judging. Now I'm just talking about that, but I'm judging what I write. But that's because I
Mm-hmm.
know I'm not. I'm not writing how I normally write, which is exactly the point.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, that's what it takes. That's in most
Mm-hmm.
cases, that's what it takes for uh stronger inspiration to find you in some of your best work to like
Yeah.
flow.
So basically, that's like you're using, you're basically calling the editing part as the pooping part. That's kind of how you're applying the poem, right? Because first you just write everything, whatever, and then when you edit it, that's when you poop out the bad stuff, right?
Yeah,
Yeah. That actually reminds me of a writing technique to release a writer's block. And there are two versions of that. It's called truly bad writing. So, because one of the reasons why we have writer's block and creativity doesn't flow is because uh, it's funny. Speaking of constipation, we get constipated with our self-judgment, right? And so to release the constipation, it's called truly bad writing, meaning you deliberately write bad writing on purpose. That way your judgmental mind, that self-judgment, those voices don't have power anymore, because when they tell you that it's bad writing, you're like, yeah, I agree, it's bad. There's no more resistance. You're like, I'm doing it on purpose. So what, right? So
yeah,
it just releases that. So that's like one version of that. And then there's a second version of that that's more subtle, where you deliberately write on purpose exactly what you normally don't write about, like what you normally judge. Like, let's say if you judge your writing as too sentimental, then you deliberately write on purpose a poem that's too sentimental. That way, again, there's no more of that. That voice has no more power because you're now doing it on purpose.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So let me ask you then, um, when 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 you come across those moments, what's your like what is your what is your response in terms of like how do you judge your like how do you judge yourself when you're going through that when you're dealing with when you experiencing a moment where you have something you want to say but you're not saying it to the like the T of how you have it in your mind, be it story or poem.
Hmm. Yeah, so there's two levels. Intellectually or mentally, what I do is I ask myself, where's this really coming from? Is this judgment even mine, right? And sometimes it comes from my parents or my teachers from childhood, like there's some other, or even some event, something that happened way back that is still then holding a charge over me, right? And then I go back and try to release that charge. So it's like an opportunity to release something that still has a hold over me. So intellectually, that's how I do it. But sometimes it's also emotional and somatic, like it's in the body and in the emotions. So there's a second level, and that's where, even in my poem, the part about I talk about the true nature of my mind being this boundless clear light, as opposed to white light or any other colors, just this boundless, transparent, clear light. And so I use a technique taught to me by my teacher who's Buddhist, indigenous, and it's about connecting to the open space above my crown, like above my head. And then once I connect to that, fully and really feel that, then I come back into the emotion in my body and kind of use that openness to just hold space. Uh, because because when I'm inside that emotion, I feel so small, right? And I feel like trapped, like in a dungeon. But when I connect to the open space first and then come back, uh, and I'm not even trying to change or fix it. I'm just being there for it. It's like a holding a baby, right? A baby that's hurt, that just wants to be heard and is crying out for attention. So like just giving it back that attention. What happens is that it kind of reverses where that thought that felt like or even that emotion that felt like a scary dungeon. Now that I've kind of gotten out of it and I'm just holding space, it becomes more like a speck of dust in a big room, or sometimes even in a boundless space. And and it doesn't always work so fast. Like, sometimes I might just feel a little bit more open than before, a little less tense, but even that is progress. Like,
Okay.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So basically just holding space for myself.
Okay.
Like
And
literally holding space because there's an actual space above that I connect to, and I bring that space back into the emotion.
okay.
Yeah.
And and last question, this is more for me, truth be told. Um, how do you what in your world, like, what were you what would you, in your eyes, what would be you doing terrible writing to yourself? What is terrible writing to you? You being your only critic. What is terrible writing to you when you look at what you got down on paper?
Um, I'm not, let's say, I haven't even thought much about it since it hasn't happened for a while, but I think it would be more like something that's like repetitive or cliche or something that I feel other people have already said, you know, and and also like some people have an internal monologue, right, that judges them or even just speaks to them in general. And I used to have more of it, and I've had less of it, especially when it comes to my art in the last few months. And so for me, it's rather than a voice or a thought, it's more like I just feel a tension or resistance when I'm when a part of me is judging it. So I'm just because the internal monologue has become more and more silent over the years for me, at least. So I think I have to be, in a way, it's nice, but it's I have to be even more careful in a way. So it's both like a blessing and a curse in a sense, because then I have to be even more sensitive to what I'm feeling because it comes more like an emotion, or even a somatic, like a body sensation, like a
Okay.
resistance. So yeah, like yeah, like there's just like, and also if an idea doesn't come, if like a coherent new idea doesn't come too quickly enough for me, I think that's what I judge as terrible. I think when, because for me, like a seed idea comes first and then I build around it. And if I'm just writing randomly and there's no like core idea to build the plant, right? Talk about growing a plant from the seed, right? And if there isn't even a seed idea to grow it around, and it just seems like a bunch of random words. I think that's what I judge really in terms of a judgment. I'm like, oh, this is just stupid, or this is just like a bunch of random words. In fact, that's actually what happened with even when I wrote that story that I shared last time, the God of, oh, yeah, about the light and the darkness. At first, I was resistant to even finishing it because it was just a random bunch of words, and I actually had to pause and finish a different piece that day, which was the Thanksgiving piece. And then I had to come back, and I was like, and then the ideas just flow. So sometimes it's just about just pausing and coming back too.
And yeah, that
Yeah.
yeah, and that's another thing I exercise. When I write something down and I feel like I hit a dead end or I'm not satisfied,
Hmm.
I just leave it. I don't trash it. I just sit on it. I just sit on it.
Hmm.
But that's
Yeah,
that's what I do
exactly.
these days. Thank you,
Yeah.
man. Thank you. Thank you for that conversation. And
Excellent. Always good to talk with you.
yes, peace and love, my brother.
Peace and love.